So, if you didn't know, Sports Interactive are currently running an event where Football Manager is free on a few different platforms for a short period of time. And for that reason, in today's video, I'll be focusing on 5 quick-fire must-know tips for you Football Manager players, whether you're a beginner or an experienced head. Hopefully, you'll find this video useful. So let's run the intro and get right into it. Hello everyone, I'm Jake here for FMSCOUT, and today I'll be showing you my 5 must-know, quickfire, top tips, whatever you want to call it, for FM22. So this isn't going to be direct information like sign X player, he is very good, you will win games. It's nothing like that, it's more generic things to keep in the back of your mind when you're playing the game to get the best out of your side and out of your Football Manager experience. Before we get into it though, I'd like to ask you guys if you get some use out of this video, if you enjoy it, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and also, this one's important, if you could comment down below what your must-know tip for Football Manager is. Hopefully that way, for anyone watching this video who needs it, they can look in the comments, find some bonus tips, and maybe it will change the way they play Football Manager. Before we get into tip number 1 though, we are sponsored in today's video. It's great to say that, again, by the good people over at Spitch, so I'll just tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll get on with the video. Spitch is a fantasy football app available for people in the UK and Ireland over the age of 18. Unlike normal fantasy football that takes place over the course of a season, Spitch actually focuses on weekly tournaments where you select your team for that game week, and then you have a chance to win some prizes, whether that's through the free leagues you can enter or the paid for leagues. It's super easy to sign up. You just click the link in the description to download the app, and of course we would greatly appreciate that here at FMSCOUT. That does help support the channel. From there you'll register, you might have to show your ID, and then you can build your team. You can see the team that I built on screen now, hopefully, if I've done this right, and from there you can then pick your captain and use the statistical analysis features within Spitch to choose the players for your side. Once you've got your team ready, you're good to go to face off against other fantasy football players, test your knowledge, potentially win some prizes, and of course you'll support the channel by downloading the app. Thank you again Spitch for sponsoring the video. Thank you to anyone who checks it out, but let's get on with tip number 1. So, tip number 1, particularly if you're starting the game, but also just in general anyway, it is very fun to make your own tactic, don't get me wrong. To start off with a completely blank slate, picking your positions, your roles, and then also selecting your tactical instructions is very fun, of course it is, but sometimes if you want to keep things simplified, the presets provided by Football Manager do a great job, and none more so in my opinion than Gegenpress. So this tip number 1 is Gegenpress is key. When you set up a tactic, as you can see here in my Wolfsburg save, which you can find linked in the description on my channel, that series has just finished. We've got new stuff on the way soon, so if you want to check out that, I'd greatly appreciate it if you subscribe over there. But say you do go to create a new tactic, as I've just done there, you'll get given the option of a bunch of presets and one that says create your own style. Now, a lot of these do look very entertaining, very fun to use. However, the one that I've had the most success with, that seems to be great for every club, even though technically you do need players with high work rate and stamina to run a Gegenpress in theory, it still works a lot better than most other tactics, even if you don't have players able to run it. I think the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3 are the most effective, but of course you can tweak it to your liking. But just in general, if you're not sure what tactic to use, the Gegenpress is always so effective, and I think it's one of the best tactics in Football Manager, both for beginners and experienced players. It's my go-to if I just need something easy in a save to run with, particularly if I'm doing a simulation and I want a tactic that I know will do well. The 4-2-3-1 Gegenpress preset is amazing. A player's attributes in Football Manager are split into 3 sections: technicals, mentals, and physicals. Physicals focusing on a player's speed, their fitness, their jumping reach, their strength, that kind of thing. You get the idea. You can see them there. I don't need to explain it to you. Now, like other games that exist, there's certain things that work best in the game engine, in the meta, if you want to call it that are super effective at winning games. And in this case, in Football Manager this year, I've got to say, and I think most people will agree with me, physicals are massively important, are massively overpowered. Don't get me wrong, mentals and technicals are important too, but to put it into perspective about how overpowered I believe it is, if I had the option of a striker with 20 finishing or a striker with 20 acceleration and 20 pace, I'd go for the one with pace and acceleration. You might think that the finishing is the be-all and end-all with a striker. It's important, of course it is, but high physical ratings, particularly in the speed and jumping reach department this year, seem to be so effective in the match engine at getting goals. People can't handle it. I've of course played a lot of Football Manager. I do a lot of simulations on here, and what I notice a lot is players who are quick or have high jumping reach outscore players with good finishing and technical ability 9 times out of 10. They're going to be exceptions, of course there is, but all I'm saying is if you have a player with amazing physicals, cherish him, and I'm sure you will get some amazing results out of that guy. Speaking of physical monsters, tall players who have high jumping reach and good heading this year can get you so many goals, way more than you might expect. Now, what I'm about to show you has been nerfed slightly since the start of Football Manager. Some people would call it almost exploiting the game. It was that good, but it got kind of toned down a little bit. It's still very effective in my eyes, but maybe not as much as it used to be, and that is on your set pieces, aiming for your big man at the near post. It sounds simple, it sounds like the thing you'd do anyway. Well, trust your gut instinct, it is the thing to do. If you go onto your set pieces and your corner routines, you've got your attacking routine on the left and right. What I always think is the best way to do it, and I didn't actually do it in this Wolfsburg save because at the time of starting, it was almost game breaking. I felt like cheating when I was using it. Is you want to just take your corner taker, here where it says player instructions, aim it at the near post. Find your tall centre back with your jumping reach and heading. In this case, I've got Lacroix and Gavardiol, who are both pretty much equally as good, and you just hover over and put attack near post, and you will get a significant amount of goals from this. Now, I'm not saying this is the best corner tactic ever. I'm sure someone out there can tweak it to make it a million times better, but to keep it simple, they will score tons of goals. It's happening all the time in the match engine. It's so overpowered, so effective, and something that if you're just getting started to Football Manager, I would suggest giving this a go. So for tip number 4, we're heading back to the tactics screen and we're going to talk a little bit about player roles. Now, in Football Manager, it's very easy to get ahead of yourself and try and use these crazy roles that just sound so fancy and so effective. A segundo volante, a regista, a half-back, a Corelio. All of these, like any roles in Football Manager, have their own pros and cons and are super fun to use. Every role in Football Manager is there for a reason, and none of them, in theory, are dud roles. I mean, you could say something like a no-nonsense fullback. You don't see people using it too often, but there are ways where you can use all of these roles to a high level of effectiveness. But there's some roles that just seem to be, I guess the only word to use is overpowered. There are some roles that just seem perfectly suited to the in-game engine. So I'm just going to quickly shout out a few roles that I think if you can fit them into your tactic and they work nicely, give them a go. You'll get some great joy. The first one in the striker role, advanced forward for me, 9 times out of 10 is the role I'll go for. Very direct, very effective, and most of the time when I get a player who scores 30, 40 goals a season, it's an advanced forward. And it's also not a super specialised role. A lot of strikers will be able to handle advanced forward quite comfortably, so I'd always suggest that one if possible. I love Metzalas, I love Corellios, but this year it seems central midfielder on support or central midfielder on attack is, I don't want to say game breaking again, but it almost feels like that. It's one of the most effective roles this year. There was a video on the FMSCOUT channel not too long ago where we looked at, is it the most overpowered role in Football Manager? And it did do amazingly well in that simulation. So I just want to give a shout out to the central midfielder on attack. If you're not experienced to Football Manager, you might see wing back and think, oh, that's too aggressive, too attacking. You don't have a wing back playing in the right back spot. You only have a wing back when you're doing this kind of system, right? Well, not completely true in Football Manager. You can use roles in a variety of places. Fullback might be the one that you're most used to, but wing backs in FM are so good, particularly wing backs on attack. If you've got a player who can do it, they will bring you so much joy. In this save, Radele Baku has been my absolute stud at right back. I can't think of any other word to describe him. His numbers in that position and his consistency is crazy. So that's tip number 4, and it leads me very nicely on to our final tip, tip number 5. Don't forget to like the video if you are enjoying, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, check out my channel in the description. But tip number 5 is one that if you're here on the FMSCOUT channel for a long while, you will have heard me rattle on about, and I feel so good when I get people in the comments saying, I never knew that, how did I never know that? That is making my game so much better. And that, guys, is consistency and important matches. These are hidden attributes that you can't see on the page here. You can only see them if you have the editor. Every player has a rating from 1 to 20, and even though there's plenty of other hidden attributes that are super important, consistency and important matches are the be-all and end-all for me, almost, of when I go and sign a player. When your coach provides you with a coach report of a player, if you see consistent performer or relishes big matches or something along those lines, that means they have a fairly high rating for those hidden attributes on a scale of 1 to 20. If I was to guess, I'd say Baku has a 14-15 consistency rating, and big matches might be, like 13 out of 20. That's good. If you don't see any mention of consistency on a player's coach report, that's also probably okay, but what I would say is steer clear of players whose consistency is a con. That means that their consistency is so low, it's actually going to affect the way they play in game on a regular basis. I've gone through this analogy plenty of times, but what consistency actually means might not be what you think it does. So what it actually refers to is how often a player plays to his ability on screen. That sounds simple, but what you need to think of it as is if a player has 14 out of 20 consistency, you can kind of imagine that as in 14 out of 20 games, Baku will play to the level of his attributes on screen. However, if you have a player with low consistency, let's say 5 out of 20, that will mean on most occasions they're not actually reaching the attributes that you can see. They might look amazing, but if they have low consistency, they might not perform too well on the pitch. We have a great example of that in a player we have at the club. Let me find him, 2 seconds. Alfonso Sepulveda. You will see his consistency rating is low. That quite worries me, and I've got to admit it slipped the net when I signed him, but looking at his attributes, this 19-year-old should be a world beater, and he's not played terribly. But a player at his level of his ability should be able to walk the Bundesliga, in my opinion, with these attributes. He's that good. But it just isn't clicking for him yet, and as soon as I saw consistency in his cons, I knew, okay, that's the issue. That's something we need to try and work on with this player. So that was my 5 must-know tips for anyone getting started with Football Manager. There's plenty of others I could have gone through. Sign Karim Adeyemi might be one, hire good staff members could be another, and also invest in young players, sell them on for profit. If you're a lower down team, loan in as many free loan players as possible. Look for players whose contracts are running out as opposed to buying players for big fees if you're in low divisions. There's a lot I can go through. Let me know if you want to see another episode of this, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all your support on the channel as always. Thank you to Spitch for sponsoring this video, but most of all, have a great day everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.